So, fam, what do you got over here?
Okay, so Niko posted this because it's Kamala Harris talking to voters in line, right? She's talking to voters in line. Now, I believe this was in Ohio, and according to the law, she is allowed to do that, I think, within 100 feet.
Yeah.
So even though if she were a little bit closer, it would be considered election engineering. But I just wanted to play the video because I think what she's saying is troubling. I mean, she's really pushing the limit here. We saw Katie Porter do something similar.
Yeah.
A lot of people really like her because they don't know about her. But
this is just typical freaking neoliberal bullshit right here.
You are going to make the decision about your future, about your family's future. It is through the voice of your vote. And you have the power. The power is with the people. And you know that. That's why you're standing in this line today. And I just came to say thank you.
And they've cheered. I wish I would have had a bullhorn. Johnny, can you imagine if we're there, take a bullhorn out and start yelling back at her? Kamala Harris left people in prison longer than their stay because she didn't want to allow DNA evidence. Also, so she can use them for cheap labor to fight forest fires.
Refuse to prosecute Stephen Mnuchin. Refuse to prosecute
pedophile
priests.
It took campaign contributions from Mnuchin and that's why she didn't prosecute him. So there's so many different things. She let 2,000 people sit in jail for minor marijuana offenses, then laughed about it on the Breakfast Club when confronted about it.
Truancy.
She threatened truancy to lock people up and stuff like that. She is awful on foreign policy. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
She wants censorship.
She's to censor. That's the head of the chain, and she has somebody on Twitter on her. One of the CEOs of Twitter's, I think. Well, not CEOs, but head of social media, something like that. Joe Biden and her have people from media in there.
Yeah, and you're not going to tell me. And I talked about that in the last video I did. You're not going to tell me that that's not going to affect their point of view. Come on.
Well, it's not going to. It also helps their power where they can suppress information. You saw what was going on with Twitter.
Right. Some people are like, well, that doesn't matter. They left that job. It's like, no.
It's nothing to fear. Don't worry, because Pelosi is committing to running for Speaker of the House if the Democrats retain the House.
Okay. Yes. So, guys, like he said, Pelosi is
nothing
going
to fear.
She's
relax. Calm down. Nancy Pelosi is going to.
So maybe people will vote for Trump just to keep Pelosi out because. If she wants to remain Speaker of the House, she's going to get it, you guys. And I'll tell you why. Because guess who's not going to oppose her?
AOC?
Yeah, not just AOC. The whole squad isn't going to oppose her, right? It's like they're not going to oppose her. They're gonna say, you know what, we need to. These are times where we have need. We need to just proceed forward, and they're going to do it. Yeah. They're going to do it. Any Democrat that votes for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker needs to be primaried. Period. End of story. We are done with this shit. Nancy Pelosi is one of the most damaging politicians this country has. Yeah. She's one of the most powerful people in Congress, but she's also one of the worst.
Yeah, she's the one who suppresses the progressive movement.
We feed them.
She's the one.
I mean, does she need to tell you more? She literally is the epitome, the gatekeeper that keeps anything progressives want from coming to fruition. She literally is holding people's lives in her hands by not pushing any sort of direct COVID aid relief when she very well could, in order to one-up Trump and play politics. That is disgusting to me. She is one of the people that absolutely must go, and she is here in California, and who's running against her? Shahid Buttar. But she has all of Silicon Valley, all of these people tied to her, and she is going to be very difficult to get rid of.
She's one of the worst politicians out there. Like I said, she's the keeper at the gate for progressive policies. Donald Trump didn't screw over Bernie Sanders in the primary. The Democrats did. Nancy Pelosi knew about it. Even though her daughter gets up there and starts chirping that she wants free elections, we've got nothing. We don't have any open source. We have no transparency. We have shit for elections. And Nancy Pelosi is the keeper of the gate. By the way, Anthony Reyes says Jorge Ramos has never seen a coup he didn't like. I mean, seriously, the guy was... Remember he got confronted by Max Blumenthal on the Venezuela shit at the airport and he looked like a fool? The guy's an asshole. The guy's a tool. He really is.
He's an elite establishment. You know, just because he's Latino
he has a nice accent,
doesn't mean he's not elite establishment. He's Latino. I've known about him since I was like a baby. Like, I know who he is. He literally just goes and peddles CIA talking points for the Latin American community. That's all he's there for.
Okay. So the next one we have, and thank you for that super chat contribution. It's always appreciated on the couch. That was for you, fam. And a bizarre Freudian slip, Biden brags about assembling the most extensive voter fraud organization in history. Now, Johnny and I talked about this. Johnny thinks that it's just, and I'm probably leaning a little bit more towards Johnny on this and stuff. Whether it was just him just speaking out of freaking turn, but a lot of people think it was like, oh, it was a Freudian slip. He actually told the truth by accident, saying that, because once again,
it's just Joe Biden being Joe Biden.
It is, but it's a mystery to me how Joe Biden got all these votes, especially in California. Like I said, I would love to subpoena those phone calls from Barack Obama to Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg to see what's going on, because I am pretty damn sure we don't have an autopsy. We don't have an audit process. We can't figure it out. We could talk about the polls, 8% to 25%. But Joe Biden, some people thought he had a Freudian slip. So let's play the little clip of Joe Biden.
Quick, I just want to, before we play the clip, I just want to say election fraud is what happened, not voter fraud. People need to stop mixing these two. Voter fraud is when you commit fraud.
Yeah.
You are, as an individual, are voting twice. You as an individual are trying to stuff ballots, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Election fraud is when somebody does that for you, or when it's the machines, etc. And voter suppression, it's when it's long lines and people are put off the voter rolls, or the gerrymandering, all of that. So people need to understand the differences between these things, because voter fraud barely ever happens by individuals. Most individuals don't go and try to vote twice or try to get their dead person to vote. If it happens, it's usually manipulated by a bigger entity, the Democratic Party.
Election fraud would be the proper term, election rigging, that kind of thing. It shouldn't really go on the voter, whatnot. But yeah, we do have a clip of Joe Biden, and I think Johnny's going to pull it up right there. That was it. So check it out.
We're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our administration, the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Secondly, we're in a
Okay, so I think it was just Joe Biden being Joe Biden and not wording things properly.
Probably.
But it's funny, and it's sad, because every day Joe Biden does or says something. If he's not hiding in the basement, he's out there saying something really dumb and sticking his foot in his mouth.
And it's so funny to hear that they put together this organization when themselves, they sit in a federal court. They can go in the back room and cheat if they want and pick whoever they want. You know what I'm saying? It's like that still hasn't gone away. I don't understand how everybody's buying this right now to think that our elections are okay and that they haven't been cheated. And once again, if you cheat the primary, you're cheating the general already. You can't cheat Donald Trump out of the election if you've already cheated Bernie Sanders twice. And I know people go, oh, Bernie Sanders won California. No, he should have wiped the floor like he did in Nevada. This thing should have been over out of California. We should have been walking out of this thing. Joe Biden didn't reach viability, and now it's over. Bernie Sanders is the Democratic nominee. It didn't happen. They cheated. Or unless, once again, all those people in line voted for Biden. You're not going to convince me, ladies and gentlemen. Biden couldn't even come to the Democratic conventions. He didn't even come here.
They were giving all these college kids provisional ballots, you guys.
So they suppressed the Bernie Sanders vote. They increased the Joe Biden vote somehow, and now he is the primary, chosen primary leader over here. So the nominee. I like what Max Blumenthal also put there real quick. I just want to say this because we didn't kind of point this out last time. This real mega scandal behind the mini scandal of Hunter Burisma, Joe Biden's presided over the ultra-nationalist coup that turned Ukraine into the sick man of Europe, enabling, what's this word, Failson? To rake $80,000 a month from a gas oligarch.
I think he just ran out of space and put fail son.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Fail.
But this is the thing we talked about too, Johnny. This is not so much about, just changing the lead. He destroyed the country. He was the one who gave the thumbs up to Victoria Nuland.
I gotta play it again.
Where?
I gotta play it again.
I'll keep going.
The thumbs up to what?
To Vic Norlian to go ahead with regime change. She said we got an attaboy from Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? That was like I saw that in Ukraine Under Fire and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But this is a little bit different. This is when he said fire this is the second part of it. He already got the regime change. Now he's got the guy coming in. So now he's got to also get rid of the prosecutor that's looking after his son. Mm-hmm. So many moves, and by doing all these things, he turned Ukraine into one of the poorest countries right now in that region. They are suffering. It says a temporary hospital was built in Warsaw National Stadium, okay, will be cleaned by Ukrainian workers earning 16 Z an hour. I don't know what ZL an hour is. Employed 0-hour contracts. If they fall sick or they go to quarantine without any sick pay, they lose their job. He's turned the state into a slave state almost right now. It's disgusting. Joe Biden facilitated that. Nancy Pelosi and her son, Paul Pelosi, got contracts. Adam Schiff, the whole 9 yards. John Kerry, Mitt Romney. They all carpetbagged in there, and they profited off the suffering of these people in the Ukraine. We should have never involved ourselves, and it was disgusting.
Well, and they did it, of course, to oppose Russia, to one-up Russia, to make Russia to make sure Russia was under control. They didn't want the Russians to have any sort of relationship with Ukraine. They did it to, promote Ukrainian government that was pro-capitalist, pro-U.S., pro-West, and that's...
And they supported an ultra-nationalist, neo-Nazi fucking regime.
Yep.
And armed them to the T, some supported them. And then when they didn't want to send them weapons, they had their buddies Israel do it and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And that's the sad part. That's what's not really talking about when we talk about the Ukraine and stuff like that, is that they were pro-regime change. Biden was at the helm of it. He was Obama's goon for this particular situation, and he turned that place into a hellhole while carpetbagging and making millions of dollars off the backs of people getting killed on the Maidan. And it's disgusting. It really is. It's a regime change that was forgotten and never really talked about in 2013, 2014.
And Israel did it too. Yeah. And Israel did it too. And those weapons were used at the March of Return in Gaza against Palestinians. Yeah. Those same weapons of neo-Nazis were used by Israeli soldiers to shoot these Palestinians. People don't talk about that either. Yeah,
it's disgusting. It really is. The regime change situation over there is disgusting, and it's kind of amazing that Putin kind of held up and didn't go in. He didn't want to inflame it and give the United States what they wanted. So it's crazy because in eastern Ukraine, it's a lot of more ethnic Russian-speaking people, and then the western Ukraine, you have the pro-European of sorts, but the neo-Nazis that come in, and they are just horrifying in what they do to the people. And that was all supported by the West and Joe Biden. Joe Biden was the man behind the plan when it happened. It was in Ukraine Under Fire, explains the whole great story. You can go back to old Kevin Z stuff. He lays it out in order. What happened day by day. Mark Sloboda, if you go back and watch the old crosstalks, Mark Sloboda was great with Peter Lavelle on these things. You get a story about what's going on, and you can just see us pushing for regime change. And what did we do back then, fam? It was Russia this, Russia that, Russia this, Russia that. We were blaming Russia. Meanwhile, we were in there doing our shit, and people died. And now it's one of the poorest countries. They're struggling. Zelensky, the president, can't do a goddamn thing there, and people are dying, and they have no health care, no money, no food. The country has been torn in part, and guess what? A bunch of people, a bunch of neoliberal establishment, and Mitt Romney too as well, got their hands in there, and they just carpetbag. They suck money out of this country on the back and the blood of Ukrainians. And that's what's never talked about, and that's what's disturbing about this whole situation.
And speaking of the West, I just wanted to point out that Pompeo is issuing sanctions on Hezbollah again. And he said Hezbollah remains a threat to the U.S. and our allies. Today, we're further exposing the terror group's activities and disrupting its operational networks. All countries should work to restrict its activities and protect themselves. Okay, so
once again, butting
Hezbollah is, people need to stop suing the CIA talking points. Hezbollah is a resistance to Israeli military. That's all Hezbollah is. Yeah. They have a political stance, obviously, they do, but it is reflective of the fact that Palestinians are getting shot at. Hezbollah, he's talking about Hezbollah like they're a terrorist organization, and that's been largely our talking point backed by the CIA, is that they're a terrorist organization and they should be eliminated, and they paint them as like Al-Qaeda. Yeah. They're not Al-Qaeda at all.
The West wants them out of Lebanon too. That's the situation. The Lebanese government is entwined and stuff, and they've protected South Lebanon. It was Hezbollah that drove Israeli troops out of Lebanon twice over the last couple decades, and they want them out of there. But who are we to say that you have to remove this entity of your government? Otherwise, we're going to impose sanctions on you and not going to help you out. The sanctions that we're opposing on Lebanon, even after their port blew up, which once again, you can smell fugaziness all around that. I don't think that's just an accident. But once again, we're trying to force them to have their government the way we want to have their government, and they're suffering right now, and we're throwing sanctions on them. It's disgusting.
I'm sorry, and it's not just Lebanon though. Like they literally, Hezbollah has defended Palestinians
too as
like
well.
entirely.
Yeah.
Like 100%. And like they're the ones that were protecting them and have been the opposition to the attacks by Israel on Palestinians. So obviously Hezbollah is going to be on that side instead of the side of Israel and U.S. allies.
Yeah.
And
for us
that's
to say get out is really ridiculous. I remember the debate when they try to corner Tulsi Gabbard on a Hezbollah question and whatnot and stuff because they've released the stigma. Hezbollah is evil. They're terrorists. Hezbollah is awful. Hezbollah is awful. But Hezbollah does have a place with these people in Palestine, in Lebanon, and in Iran and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And they protect a lot of poor people, and a lot of poor people call for them. And what's only going to happen in this situation when it comes to Lebanon with Hezbollah trying to get rid of them and keeping those sanctions on there is that those people are just going to get even more inflamed and upset with the Americans and support Hezbollah even more. I don't even understand why the deep state doesn't learn this lesson right now.
No, it's not about them learning lessons.
They never, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're going to inflame them more and stuff. But that's something that we need to learn and stuff. And that's something that Ron Paul would always talk about. Let's just plain old get out. Mike Gravel, let's just plain old get out. That's it. You know? That was my Mike Gravel. I don't know how that was. No. Johnny, you had a video to show us? A couple videos?
Well, yeah, I wanted to show the Biden thing.
All right.
We were talking about Biden, but yeah.
Let's do it. We can always have time to show some Joe Biden.
What does it say there, Pasta?
In 2006, Ukrainian prosecutor General Viktor Shokin, I missed the rest, not wanting this corruption exposed, Joe Biden swung into action using a U.S. loan guarantees as hostage while demanding Shokin be fired.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Talk about incriminating yourself. And now you want to say that you're innocent.